Hello, guys, and welcome back to the NW Sportscast. Today we got our NFL Power Rankings, and sorry, guys, but number tier 10, we got the Bears. Just starting it off, I think they're the worst team in football. I think Justin Fields looked awful, and he's one of their only quote unquote bright spots on this team. The defense isn't great. Kansas City put up 41 against them. The offense is god awful. And my worst team, my two worst teams, the Texans and the Cardinals, both got some good wins. So I have to put the Bears here.
Yeah, at this point, Justin Fields is not a bright spot. And the defense, they were already bad, and now their defensive coordinator has resigned. So the Bears, they could very easily get the number one pick for a second year in a row.
I don't know what happened to the screen there, but we'll move on. Tier 9, we got Caleb. I don't know why it's not loading all, but here we go, Caleb. So
Oh
we got
man.
So we have the Broncos last. I think so. This is the Caleb tier. There's gonna be a Caleb tier um every show, but the Caleb tier is now tier 9 instead of tier 10 because I still think they would stick with Justin Fields. The Bears would, even if they get the number one overall pick. So I think
I don't think they would. I don't think they should.
I don't think they should, but I think they will. But
That
these
would be stupid if they did.
six teams, I think, would take Caleb. You got the Broncos, who just you can blame Russell Wilson, sure, but I mean, 70 points, prime Tom Brady loses that game. So, hey, that's just, oh my God, that's just crazy. And then you got the Giants. Yeah, Daniel Jones, don't trust it still. Saquon didn't play. They lose. And then you got the football team. They get destroyed after they got a good win last week, I believe, right? They did. And then the
They got that 2-point win over the Broncos.
Yeah. Okay. So not a great win, but they they got a win. And
They
the
got
Cardinals obviously they played the Giants close. So and then they beat the Cowboys. So I have them here. The Panthers, I thought looked okay against the Seahawks, and then the Falcons, who have a couple wins under the belt. So
Yeah, I mean, two of these teams would love to have Caleb. Uh, two of these teams, four of these teams didn't think they were going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes going into the season. The one of the most interesting ones is the Panthers, because obviously they did just draft Bryce Young, but yeah, they have imploded. They have led at halftime all three of their games. They were leading at halftime against the Falcons and the Seahawks. They were tied against the Saints, and all three games they completely disintegrated in the second half. So the Panthers have a lot of work to do. You have to consider moving off of Bryce after 1 year if you can get Caleb.
yeah, and the Panthers will be the one exception to this tier. They could stick with their guy there, but the other five, 100%, I think you take Caleb. Then
Russell Wilson would be backing up Caleb Williams.
And then I also think that I was meant to put the Texans in this tier as well. I had them in between Washington and the Cardinals. So there's
Ooh, I would not. I actually would have issue with that.
really,
The Texans, the Texans, they haven't looked good as a team, but they have CJ Stroud's been good this year. Like he's rookie of the year front runner.
yeah, but I just don't think they're a good team. But yeah,
But they would not take Caleb. And I think the Texans could surprise a lot of
sure,
people.
that's true. Okay, we got they could
I
be a
like the name of this one.
we got more volatile than Bitcoin. These teams they show some bright spots. They each have a win under their belt, some against some good teams, but they are either really bad or they look pretty good. And unfortunately for these teams, there's just a lot of good teams in the NFL this year, and you can't be this volatile and expect to go deep in the playoffs or make the playoffs at all. You got the Titans that got blown out by the Browns. You got the Colts that did narrowly edge out the Ravens, but I don't think they're that good of a team. The Jets, they beat the Bills a couple weeks back, but since then it looked pretty bad. They did play the Patriots pretty close though. And then you got the Raiders, who I know Levi, you're a lot higher on the Raiders than I am, but I think they're a bad football team as well. The Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, the hype might finally be dying down, and then the Saints, who um, could still definitely win the South there, but they do lose against the Packers.
Yeah, I think the only team in this tier that is going to realistically make the playoffs is the Saints. I had the Raiders and the Jets as playoff teams in the preseason. I do not anymore. I think the Jets obviously no Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to take the L on that. I think it's stupid to
Yeah,
have to admit defeat, but I will take the L on the Raiders. I don't know. I guess I just believe too much in Jimmy G after seeing what he did in San Francisco. But the Raiders do not look very good. So yeah, I'm okay with this. I still would put I think the Saints and maybe the Raiders and Colts a little bit higher, but for the most part, yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely volatile. I like the name.
I think it better than the record indicates. Obviously,
Okay.
The Vikings still look
Yeah.
like the first win, but I still think they're not a bad football team. And then the Patriots, who've played close in most of their games, they have one win on the season. But yeah, I think both these teams they could get hot. You just never know. You just never know, and they could make the playoffs, but they did dig themselves a hole at the start of the season.
Yeah, I have my and when I made my tiers for the week, I named this a similar tier. It was said get a win or keep dropping, and it was these two teams plus the Broncos, who I still also I think the Broncos you could argue could also
They
be in this
lost
tier.
70 points.
Um, they did, and the defense is bad, but I still think they're better than. I mean, they lost in their first game. They lost because they missed two field goals. They lost by 1 point in a game that they missed two field goals, and then the next game you
Who?
have the lead 21-3, and then you turn the ball over one time in the second half, but your defense goes from being like this to like this, and then you lose because of a failed 2 point conversion in which there was a clear missed pass interference call. So the first two games both could have ended up being wins, but unfortunately, just a couple of bad plays that a missed call and a couple of missed field goals screws you over in your first two games, and then and obviously the Dolphins completely embarrass you. But I still think they're better than the record indicates.
All right.
Maybe I'm out of my mind for thinking that. I don't know.
I think you are. I think you are. We got surprises and disappointments. We got the
Okay, yeah.
Packers. We got the Steelers. And I think so the Packers, Steelers, and Browns for me are surprises. And then the disappointments have been the Ravens and the Jaguars. Listen, guys, I'll say it. I think the Steelers, they've looked pretty good. Their defense is one of the best in the league, as well with the Browns. Those might be the two best, two top five defenses in the league right there. Their offense does kind of hold them back, but they're super solid. And then you got the Packers. Jordan Love's looked pretty solid. Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence, I think, are still elite quarterbacks, but they have not been playing like elite quarterbacks lately. And the Jaguars have now dropped what, two straight, and obviously just got absolutely embarrassed by the Texans. So
Yeah, well, Lamar, for what it's worth, he has been a top 10 quarterback this season, but he's been an ugly top 10 quarterback in which he makes some good plays, and then he has two drives in a row against the Colts where he turns it over fourth down.
yeah, and that's not top 10
Trevor,
to me. That's not top 10 to me.
well, statistically, but Trevor is a
According to your
whole other
little QB
story.
index.
The QB index that I live and breathe by. Trevor Lawrence is 22nd on the QB index. I had him at number 3 on my preseason MVP rankings. I had the Jaguars as my number 1 seed prediction. And I sent out a tweet halfway through that Texans game, and I said, "This might be one of my all-time worst takes ever." I don't know how I missed. I don't know what I missed. Like all the momentum was on the Jaguars, and they did not show up. They just, I mean, Nico Collins and Tank Dell are not supposed to be very good, but they looked amazing against the Jaguars defense. And Trevor Lawrence cannot do a thing with his offense.
Yeah.
Nothing. You have Calvin Ridley back from suspension. Christian Kirk was a top 20 receiver last year. Evan Engram is one of the better tight ends in the league. Travis Etienne meant to be one of the best running backs. Like all the pieces should be there, and the Jaguars are not taking advantage. I don't know. I still think Jacksonville, when it's all said and done, makes the playoffs. I think the Browns will as well, and I think The Ravens and Steelers and Packers, all three of those teams will also be in the playoff mix. But it's been a very disappointing. I don't know what happened. Like how was I so wrong on this?
Yeah, the Jaguars will still definitely surprise us. I would not be surprised. They started out slow last year, but
They did.
we'll
And
see.
what's nice for them is they have two games in London the next 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure they're undefeated in London. So maybe that
Oh,
can
they're
be
going
a
to be in
nice
England for
change
a
of
couple of weeks
momentum.
there.
They
Yeah,
got the Falcons and then they got somebody else. So could be a nice opportunity.
playoff bound in LA. We got the two LA teams here. I have the Rams narrowly edging out the Chargers. But hey, these two teams are definitely solid. Chargers pick up their first win, and LA, they play a close game to a good Bengals team. So I think these two teams are gonna make the playoffs, and they aren't gonna win their division. But I think LA is playoff bound.
Well, we'll see about the Chargers. I still am not a Chargers believer, but I did move them. I did. You'll be happy to know the Chargers are now 17th in my rankings, so I can be reasonable. Um, but I think the Rams have a decent shot. I don't really know what to think about them though, because I was about ready to say they were a top 10 football team. I did say it the past 2 weeks, and then they go out and literally their offensive line, like what happened? I watched a good amount of that Bengals game, and their O line could not protect Matthew Stafford if he was getting bombarded by like literal bombs. Like every single time the Rams needed to make a play, Stafford got sacked. Every time, like third and long, every single time it was a sack, or he had to throw the ball away because he was under so much pressure. Like their offensive line was looked great against us. It looked good against San Francisco, who has a good
Yeah,
defense, and then they go and play Cincinnati, and their offensive line all of a sudden can't block for the life of them.
yeah.
That was an ugly game, and Stafford looks like he's regressed.
We'll see. They
They
had
do still have Puka Nakua though.
and Cooper Cup's gonna come back. They have a good
Yeah,
win in
Cooper Cup.
Seattle. I think they're a good team. Let's
I,
keep
I hope
moving
they're a good
on.
team because I don't want that loss to be looked at
We
badly
got
on the Seahawks.
no
Uh,
Lombardi yet. No Lombardi
I mean,
yet.
I agree. I agree with this.
The Cowboys, okay, we can't overreact too much. They looked really, really good the other couple weeks, but they obviously I have to drop them because they do
Yeah.
lose. They lose pretty badly to the Cardinals. Then you got the Lions and the Seahawks. The Seahawks obviously take down the Lions, which is why I have the Hawks just edging out the Lions. But these three are all good football teams, but I don't think they have a shot at winning the Super Bowl for various reasons. I think the Seahawks and the Cowboys are held back by their quarterbacks. I think you need an elite quarterback to win, except for if you're the Niners. And then the Lions, I think they
Well, the
don't.
Niners have an elite quarterback,
I disagree.
number 6 in the league according
I
to the
disagree.
QB index.
The Lions just don't have all the pieces there yet.
Yeah,
It's still
their defense could use a little bit.
and Jared Goff
Offense,
isn't he's good. I think he could take a team to the Super Bowl. He's already shown he can do
he's
it
done it
once in
before.
LA. So, but I think all these three teams can all make the playoffs and they probably all will, but they are a little short for the Lombardi.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dallas maybe is better than Detroit, but not. I have the Seahawks at 6,
I mean, the
the
Cowboys just
Cowboys.
lost to
I
the
have the
Cardinals.
Seahawks at 6, Cowboys 7, and Lions at 8. So we're pretty much the same.
Yeah, we're close
As
here.
far as that, I think this might be a little bit lower for you, but yeah, I think um one of the most interesting matchups for me next week, Lions Packers. Both teams are 2-1. Most people think the Lions should win that game, but if the Packers win, that changes everybody's mind about who could win the NFC North. So
Yeah,
keep an eye on that.
Super Bowl hopeful. Got the Bengals with the Eagles. We got the Bills.
Yeah.
And we do have the Dolphins in this tier. So guys, I'm sorry, I apologize, but when editing this slideshow, because I just edit Levi's previous week, that's easier because all the images are in. And he had the Dolphins so low in his slideshow that I just forgot to copy paste it in after deleting it. So That's on me, but it's also kind of on Levi for disrespecting the Dolphins this much. But I do have them.
Well, hang on. So I agree. I would put the Dolphins in this tier.
I have them at the
Um,
top of this tier. Just letting you know, I think they're better than these.
okay. I would have them at the bottom, but the Bengals. I will say this: I kept the Bengals in my top 10. I haven't moved them out of my top 10, even when they were 0-2. I had them in my top 10. I have them at 10 this week. It appears if I'm doing my math right, you have the Bengals at 6.
Yeah, something like that. I think they're a good team. I
They
don't
have
know what
one and
to say.
two.
I know they just be a good Rams team.
I don't know about that. They
Joe
looked
Burrow has played
bad
bad.
week one.
Joe
They
Burrow has
looked
played.
awful in week 1 and 2.
Burrow, I think, has played the worst football of his life.
Oh, that's not a debate. He has.
Yeah. So this is the floor of the Bengals. I think there's only
Well,
room to
I think their floor is less than the sixth best team in the league.
I think their floor is
And like
beating.
you cannot tell me. I'm sorry. You cannot. You could argue a lot. A reasonable person could argue that the Bengals are better than the Seahawks and the Lions. Just if you want to say they've been to a Super Bowl, they went to the championship game last year. They have a better quarterback. They have better receivers. Like you could argue that, and it would be reasonable, especially because the Seahawks did lose pretty badly in the week one. You cannot argue that the Cowboys are worse than the Bengals right now.
Yes, you
And
can. The
because
Cowboys
the
just
Cowboys
lost.
dominated their first
Cowboys
two
just
games.
lost to the
The
Cardinals.
Bengals got dominated in their first two games.
The Bengals, the most recent game, which is what the power rankings are about to a certain degree, the Bengals just beat the Rams, and the Cowboys just lost to the Cardinals.
Yeah, the trap games happen like that, but when you have one team
This
that's
is
been
why I didn't
dominated,
overreact. I did not
I
overreact too much to the
I
Cowboys.
know, and I applaud you for it, and I just
So you
like
just don't like where the Bengals are placed.
I don't like. I think the Bengals are too high. I would put them below all three of the teams on the previous tier because, and I'm saying
You have
you
them
could
below.
argue about
You could argue that they're worse than these three teams, but I think that
no. You
after
could
seeing
argue the
I
only
think
team
after
that
seeing the Bengals can win a Super Bowl, and I don't think these three teams can.
I don't think they can win a Super Bowl right now. I don't
I
think they
think they
can.
could. No,
Okay. Well, I guess
next
we'll
if
see.
next week was week one of the playoffs, I don't think they could either. But it's not. It's week four. So
Yeah, true.
and we got the
And hey,
Eagles.
I still think they can win their division, but I don't think. I think if they go into the playoffs, they're losing to the Bills, they're losing to the Dolphins, they're losing to the Chiefs. I think, but I guess you could say that about the Cowboys too. They're losing to the
Yeah.
49ers no matter what. So
We got the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, and let me pose this question to you. Is their little push thing that they do where they just get the running backs behind Jalen Hurts and just push him for a couple yards. Do you think that should be outlawed in the NFL? There's some
oh,
people on
it definitely should be because but
it's a
but
guaranteed yard. It's a guaranteed yard.
but what
And
I'm
fourth and
saying is
one.
this: if other teams want the league to ban it, then they should just start doing it themselves. Like
Oh, I
you
know.
mean to tell me that only one team in the NFL has good enough offensive linemen to do that play? I'm gonna go out on a limb
Well, it's
here.
also because Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds, Levi. He's
That
a
is true.
strong quarterback.
Okay, but you're telling me Lamar couldn't do that for Baltimore?
Lamar can't
Russell,
squat 600 pounds.
you don't think Russell could go do that for Denver?
I think
I
it's a
mean, come
great
on.
strategy. I think it's a great strategy. I don't think you could throw out anyone and they could do the tush push. But
Maybe not. I feel like it's such a simple play and they're so good at it. Like why are no other teams attempting to do this? I don't know. But it works really well for them.
and then we got the Bills and the Bills. I'm just gonna kind of go through the Bills and the Dolphins really quick. Bills, I think Josh Allen at his best is a really, really good quarterback, but you either get really good Josh Allen or really bad Josh Allen.
Yeah. There's no in
I know.
between.
So, hey, if Josh Allen, this is why they're Super Bowl hopeful, because if Josh Allen's best can win your team a Super Bowl, but when it gets flustered and stuff, you saw in week one against the Jets, he's not a great quarterback. And then you got the Dolphins, put up 70, could have broke a record. Mike McDaniel, he arguably the best coach in the NFL, question mark. I don't know.
I would not say he's the best. I mean, last year they lost 4 in a row at the end of the season, but um I think maybe the best offensive coach. I think right now, I believe, like I said, I believe in the Dolphins now. I fully 100% buy that they're making the playoffs. I take ownership of
You only
that. That was a
needed a
bad take as well.
70-point game.
But I still don't think they're better than Buffalo. So we'll see this week if they are. But I
Yes.
have Buffalo at 4 and the Dolphins at 5. So, and then I have Philly at 3.
Okay. AFC favorite, Chiefs.
Yeah, yeah.
Despite how good the Dolphins look, and they're close. They're knocking on the door at 3. I think the Chiefs just coming off a Super Bowl. It looks like they've kind of rebounded. Kelsey's officially back. You got Taylor Swift in the house for all the Chiefs games now. You know,
Rumor has it she's gonna be there this Sunday too.
yeah, vibes are going good for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, and they just blew the socks off of who who they beat.
Well, they beat the Bears without a defensive
Yeah,
coordinator,
they
so
blew
I
the
don't know
socks
how
off.
much you can put into that, but still.
But they destroyed the Bears and they needed to. And what they beat the Jaguars last year. So, they haven't played really too much good competition and they lost week 1. So, we'll see. But I think the Chiefs, until proven otherwise, they're at 2. And then unless
Well,
you have
what's nice for the Chiefs is they got 4 built-in wins on their schedule every single freaking year because the Raiders and Broncos are just not competitive against them.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
They
last
play the
year
Jets. They play the Jets this weekend, so you can guess what the score of that one's going to be.
should be a win. And then we got not just the NFC favorite, we have the NFL favorite,
Yeah,
Niners.
they're. I'm glad we agree that the Niners and the Chiefs. I mean, they're just so good.
Yeah. No, Brock Purdy, he's a top 12 quarterback, but it's more about the pieces around him, the defense, the scheme. Really, really well run football team, probably the best in the NFL. And yeah, I think that's it, Levi.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Purdy goes, I think it's important to understand. Like, you can say Brock Purdy's like the 24th best quarterback in the NFL from a talent perspective. And at the same time, you can say, if you look at the numbers this year, he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, a borderline top 5 quarterback. But just by looking at how he's playing and how his
Yeah,
team is
I
playing.
could throw 1 yard, I could throw 1 yard screens to Christian McCaffrey and 3 yard.
But that was the argument with Brady for so long, and he proved everybody wrong. So all I'm saying is, I think there's that. What's scary is that there's still a lot more growth that Purdy has to do. I don't think he's as talented as Mahomes or Josh Allen or Tua or Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he is. I don't even think he is potentially as. I think at full health, he's the 4th best quarterback from a talent perspective in his own division. Because Matthew Stafford throws a much better football. Kyler Murray and Geno Smith are both more athletic. But even still, Purdy might have better stats and more wins than all 3 of those guys. When it's all said and done, he probably will. I feel like I'm like a Bills fan in the early 2000s watching the dynasty of the Patriots arise from the ashes. Like, this is like, I realize what it must be like. Like, as good as Seattle is, I don't see a way in the near future that we can be anything over second in our division, which sucks. Because
Yeah,
when it was Kaepernick and Jimmy G, you all there was always a chance that the Seahawks. I mean, we won the division 4
better than
times,
both.
but now it just feels like the Niners have the better coach, they have the better roster in almost all areas, and they have a quarterback who he's just insanely efficient.
Not just that, guess how much Brock Purdy is getting paid, Levi, for the
Oh,
next
he's getting paid.
this
Wasn't
season, this
the
season and
stat?
2 more. This season and 2 more.
Well, I just remember they said the announcer of Chris Collinsworth was making double what Brock Purdy makes in the whole season to announce one Sunday night football game.
He makes $934,000, less than $1 million. He has a roommate because he can't afford housing in the Bay Area.
That's insane.
I mean, and this is not just this year. This is this year, next year, and the year after. It's a 4-year contract worth $3.7 million. As
And you know what? If he's smart, he'll do exactly what Tom did. he'll take the pay cuts and he'll go and win a bunch of rings with the 49ers. And this is when you have a Hall of
The
Fame.
fact the Niners can pay less than $1 million to Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones is getting 35 million is crazy. Crazy.
Oh my God. I will say though, we don't know for a fact if Brock Purdy's actually better than Daniel Jones. If they switched places, who's to say Daniel Jones wouldn't be in the
Okay,
MVP
but
race and Brock Purdy
it
is
doesn't take
0-3?
it doesn't take like some NFL analyst to realize Daniel Jones is not 35 times better than Brock Purdy.
No, it's I agree with that. I agree with that.
All right. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. This is the NFL Power Rankings coming out every week. Sorry for it getting out so late. Sorry for my few mistakes. It is 1:30 here in Syracuse, and I am exhausted. So leave a like if you made all the way into the video because you clearly liked it a little bit, and subscribe down below. As always, go Seahawks, and hopefully the Mariners can sweep the Rangers because if they don't, we probably don't make the playoffs. Bye-bye, guys. Yeah. All right. There's 9 minutes left. Do you think we can do a post game?
Yeah, 9 minutes is all we need.
Okay.
You want to pull up a picture of the Mariners or something?
Yes.